if you are in fight or flight, your reasoning brain shuts down, your creative problem solving shuts down. Like, you really can't engage in the relationship. Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians who don't want to live in franticity and instead want to live in freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Ferks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Greetings.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this wonderful Monday.
Yes, happy new week.
Yes, I love Mondays.
I know you do.
I know, and you guys know that I do too by now. Or if you don't, man, where have you been? This week we are going to talk about relationships, specifically friends and family.
Yeah, our closest relationships.
Right, because...
Well, not spouses, I guess.
You don't consider spouses family?
Friends or family, no.
Oh my goodness. We need to have a conversation.
That would be its own category some other time.
Oh, okay.
Are all your notes about spouses?
Yeah. Talking about how much anxiety there is with my spouse. Yeah.
Okay. Could be an interesting show, folks.
Yeah. Well, I figured spouses. Some people aren't married, so.
Yeah. So.
No need to do an entire week of shows about something that may not apply. Friends and family, because this is kind of the time of year for extra exposure to friends and family. I know we have way more spending time with friends and family.
Yeah, it's just
over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, a lot of different gatherings, different events. It's fun, but it's a lot more work than normal.
This is true.
What is it about close relationships that can steal calm?
Well, I was thinking about how, you can have conflict in those close relationships just because you spend more time with those people.
Oh, more opportunity. It's
right.
kind of like the thing where there's some statistic about most
getting
car accidents
right by your house. Yeah.
That's because that's
where
you drive.
More than everywhere else.
Every time you leave your house and come back to your house, you're driving right by your house.
Right.
But
yes.
Anyway, it's so similar.
Yeah. Statistically, you're more likely to get into conflict with the people that you spend more time with, which hopefully that's your friends and your family. If it's not, you have other problems.
Could be. Well, yeah. Could be people you work with, but.
Yes. But if you work so much that you don't spend time with your friends and family, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that even though, like, sometimes we want to give our family, like, we're tied with blood, we don't choose our family, they're there, God chooses them for us, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to apply the same relationship rules, I think, with them, especially as we grow older.
You mean we want to and we
Yes.
don't, or
I
we
think,
should and we don't?
I think we should, and maybe we don't, where we give our blood relatives extra passes and more chances and more grace and stuff, where to have a good relationship, we'd want to apply some of the same rules as we would with our good friends.
And see, I would disagree when you say you give them more grace, because it's not actually more grace to ignore stuff.
Sure.
Like, that's not
grace.
grace.
That's what we call it. Yeah. Right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. That's building problems in later, Yeah,
so that would be more of not addressing things.
Yeah, more denial, more apathy.
Yeah. But I'm just saying there's more, that seems to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's your blood, that's your relatives.
Right, yeah, I think you end up with people who have a lot of passive resentment. You get that passive-aggressive, like, little digs all the time just because your resentment overflows a little bit. Stuff like that.
Just depends on how the family processes it.
Right. Well, I guess I'm thinking about, people that are frustrated but don't say anything about it.
Yeah.
It tends to either come out, like, in little digs here and there or in a giant explosion.
So that definitely steals calm. That builds anxiety into the relationship.
Mm-hmm. I think, too, by definition, there's almost more opportunity, not just because you're around them more, but because you're more vulnerable.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, these are people
they
that
know
changed your
stuff.
diaper maybe when you were a baby.
Yeah, or even just, if I get in a fight with one of my friends versus getting in a fight with you, getting in a fight with you despite the fact that you are my spouse and technically not a friend or a family
That's
member,
right.
it's still more stressful.
We're not talking about that this week.
Punk. And I think it hurts more too because, if somebody close to you is like, dude, you're a mess, or whatever they say, like, I can't believe what an awful person you are because you always yada yada whatever.
Right.
Like, that affects you, or at least for me, it affects me way more than random stranger person who may or may not know me. Even when
Definitely.
family members don't know you, really, and they say that, you still give them more weight.
Yeah. I think that's what I was getting at with, we want to make sure we apply the relationship rules, whatever the rules are to have a good relationship.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's just going to drop a bomb on you and kind of walk away, like that's not the right way to handle that. There needs to be more of a question, like a conversation.
Dialogue.
Yeah. So yeah, but anyway. And I think it's just family relationships are relationships and they're just really hard. I mean, we're not
Right.
all, even though we're all in the same family, we're not all the same personality. We're not all the same. We don't have the same gifts or the same passions or the same priorities. There can be any number of reasons to have a conflict.
Yeah, and I think it's so sad because, when you think about a family that functions well, these are the people that you're hopefully around the most. Or, if you're talking about family of origin, maybe you don't see them the most, but and friends, like we're talking about your close friends, so people that you're around the most who have the most opportunity to help you grow and help you change. And if we don't take the time to invest in those relationships, we're surrounding ourselves with crappy relationships. Like, because those are the ones, I think sometimes we kind of take them for granted. We don't do the work of putting down boundaries or handling conflict well or making sure we spend time with them or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we just kind of are like, it's family.
Yeah, I think they're always there.
Right.
But, yeah.
And best friends can be the same way too.
Right. Yeah, and unfortunately they're not always there.
Right.
I mean, I just went to a funeral last week and that family member is out of that family now.
Right.
So we want to take this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think something else that adds to anxiety is as kids grow older, this has to do with different values and different gifts and stuff. Like sometimes, even if the family's good, or it doesn't really matter, but there's going to be some, as the person strikes out on their own or whatever, there's different, there just could be a different direction there, and that could cause anxiety.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's a bad direction. It's just different, and then sometimes it's hard to digest for the family.
Right. I'm not looking forward to that with our kids.
Yeah.
Just the okay, once you get older and...
Yeah, it's interesting as a parent looking forward to what that must be like from the other side,
Mm-hmm.
But wanting your kid to be a complete person, totally living in the CSCs,
Right. Yeah.
and following God, whatever, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if they're following God and God says, go be a missionary or go be, some desk job. Those are my top two. I never want to do those. Yes. Yeah. And if God calls them to do that, I want to be like, okay, that's awesome. Go for it. So another area that I thought of that causes anxiety too is trying to control people. And that's kind of along with what we were just saying with the making decisions you don't agree with. It's really, really hard to just sit back and watch people make decisions that are not the ones you would make, especially if they're dumb decisions.
Yeah.
And we've had to watch some of our family members make some decisions that we don't.
Yeah, and our friends.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of the flip side of something I think you were describing earlier of the family member who's like, hey, that was dumb.
Yeah.
And so being on either side of that, where it's like, I don't know if I agree with this, and then not being the one that's like, I'm going to bonk you now because you just made a bad choice, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to watch, and it's hard to just sit back and say, okay, it's their life. I'm not going to control it. And to make sure, because you are around those people all the time, it's really easy to hook your own calm into what else is going on. Like, I have had to be very intentional that I do not hook my calm into whether my kids are fussy or not,
Oh, sure.
and to just be like, well, they can be fussy and I can be calm, and that's okay.
Yeah. And we have to do that with each other.
Right.
We can't rely on each other's emotional state to define ours. And
Yeah.
It's very tricky.
Right. Because you're like we were just saying, you're around these people more. So when one of them is like, it's easy to get caught up in that and have your emotional state get crazy too.
Mm-hmm. So what about some ways to get back into that calm, get our peace back?
It was really interesting at our Tai Chi class this week. Our instructor was talking about how sometimes calm feels so far away that you can see it, but there's no way to get it. Like you're inside of a balloon and you're pushing on the walls of the balloon and there's no way to escape. And it just was making me, for me, it was regrounding in the fact that like, oh wait, God's the source of our calm,
Yeah.
Like so often we talk about practical ways, like here's how you can find your calm again and some things, but ideally and realistically, the only reason why we can have any calm at all is the fact that God's sovereign, that he, that whatever is going on with politics in your country, whatever's going on with your family, whatever is going on in your life circumstances, God's working it out for the good of those who love him. And if you're his child and you love him, he's taking care of your circumstances. So we can't find calm on our own, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. It's not something we go out and grab and kind of tame it for ourselves. Right.
I think that's where, I guess, I was thinking about it because my Tai Chi instructor is very much into he's kind of agnostic. So when he's like, it's so hard to find calm, I was thinking, well, yeah,
if you don't know where to look.
Right. It is really hard to find calm when you have to just create it for yourself. But we don't have to create it for ourselves. We just have to hook into what God says,
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that. I think that brings it back down to you and to me, to the individual of like, I'm in this family and, or this group, whatever the situation is, the only way for me to have peace is to be fully connected to God and then to manage my relationship with all these other people.
Right. Yeah. If you don't trust God to take care of your best interests, it's very hard to be calm. Very.
Yeah. And I don't know, often I think we get so caught up in some of the stuff we talked about earlier, like trying to monitor or manage, that we're not thinking, like we're thinking that if it's fully monitored and managed, then the calm and the peace comes. That's an external versus in our heart being connected with God. And like, our kids are still young, but there's so much letting go that's so difficult. It's like, because they're not these little robots that we can just program and command. They're people making choices, and they're making a lot of mistakes. But that's how we learn, trusting that, like you said, God knows what he's doing. He put these people together. He built our families around us and our friends and our neighbors.
Right. And I think, anytime it's like, this is going to take a minute to, go pray or to tap, different things that we've talked about before, reminding yourself it is so worth it. Because as we have said 80 million times already, if you are in fight or flight, your reasoning brain shuts down, your creative problem solving shuts down, which means that not only can you not process what another person is telling you, like you really can't engage in the relationship, but you also can't see any creative solutions. So if you're in the middle of a conflict, you're automatically, trying to deal with the conflict with like both hands tied behind your back and you're hobbled. All right, we love you guys and we are praying for you. Hope you have an awesome week. It's Monday. You've got the whole week in front of you. There are just bunches of opportunities sprouting everywhere right now.
That's true. And great opportunity here. Second week into December. If the holidays are looming and if you're worried about the holidays, we did a whole week worth of shows back in late October. And if you haven't heard those, you can listen to. It's not too late to be prepared. We don't have to get sucked into the vortex of the holidays.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to everybody that's been sharing the show. We really, really appreciate it. If you have found this podcast helpful, please do continue to share the show and come back tomorrow and we're going to keep talking about relationships.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Bye.